And I'm with that. I'm with that. The problem is, one, your motive. Two, it's too late now. They did it already. They got everything they needed from you. You made everybody pop. You made us all the money in the world, and you was the bridge between the young money or whatever dominance was happening and AI happening. This is the labor strike. Mm-hmm. We needed. That's why I was doing all fussing with him. We need you to not show up to the port. We need you to go over here and do something to just throw a cog in the evil system, and he didn't. He was complicit, and he played the game because they're throwing him all the money in the world.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Elevation here with another episode of the JBP Ellivated, where we speak on the Joe Budden podcast and all of his co-hosts on and off the pod. Happy Thanksgiving out there. I hope you enjoyed the time with your families or just enjoyed your time off from work. I had to come back to this episode, man. Yesterday's episode that I released was just a synopsis of the overall episode, but I didn't give it justice. I didn't do it justice. So I ran the episode back today where I was coherent, clear-hearted, clear mind, and full, quite frankly. This is one of Joe's best rants ever. This is one of Joe's best rants ever. But before I get into it, I didn't realize how much of a shift this pod made from music, because every time he does one of these music breakdowns, it's phenomenal. When he does a Joe rant, it's phenomenal. And I didn't realize how much this podcast, focused on music, even though it's always been rated number one in the music podcast sector. I didn't realize it until it came down to these rants. Shout out to Ice for showing me your true value to the JBP, because outside of Joe, I don't think anyone touches you on this music shit. And you're tapped into all the different sectors of the culture too. As much as I try to clown on you for being inside as opposed to outside, I have to give you your credit. You show your ass when it comes to these rants, and you're getting better. Joe broke Drake down the same way that I try to break Flip down. And this is coming from a no money. I don't have no money. I don't own anything. I'm still purchasing all the shit that I have. So I can't say that I own anything. And this is me speaking to a nigga that supposedly owns all his shit. But the same shit that Joe is saying to and about Drake is the same shit that I'm saying to and about Flip. It's just at a much higher scale. The very first question I have in my mind is how this most recent negotiation went down with Drake. If they approached you with $400 million on the onset of the deal, or $200 million, and y'all haggled and you bumped it up to $400 million, I'm looking at you sideways. First and foremost, we need to give more credit to Chamillionaire. For those of y'all who aren't familiar, Chamillionaire is a Texas underground legend. He went mainstream, he went platinum, and then he quote unquote fell off. Everybody was concerned or confused. Where is this nigga at? But what Chamillionaire did was the Ryan Leslie model back then. He got everybody's numbers, he got their email addresses, he got addresses so he could send them quote unquote merchandising. But that was him getting his direct to consumer line set up. And then he disappeared. And then he comes back a decade later and everybody's talking about the venture capital money that he had. You don't get to that point if you didn't get money off of the original source, which was music. A lot of people, Drake mainly, view music as the product, when music is just the ticket. The product is how they disperse the music. That's one thing that you're making the music. But if we sign you in these terrible ass deals, you have to make the music. The reason Joe said Frank Ocean was the only one that got out of his deal was because he signed one more album release as opposed to the multi-album contracts that they signed. And since Apple was just starting a new service on their streaming sites, they signed him because Frank Ocean was top tier at the time. Then he dropped that bullshit and he got out of his deal and made $20 million. And that's history. Drake signed a multi-year, $400 million plus, hopefully there's incentives, contract in order to still have to fulfill everything that these niggas tell him. Ice had brought up that this is the new thing that they're giving you. They're giving you niggas the masters, except we still have attachments to the masters. And we've been seeing everybody selling all their masters. Future. We've seen big names sell their whole catalogs. We got our masters and then we immediately sold them. Why are they getting rid of their masters? And why are the people that attain their masters not doing anything with said masters? I remember when they had brought up the news that Snoop Dogg had the title of Death Row, and he had everything that was with Death Row. How come we haven't heard or seen anything from Death Row? What these niggas don't ever acknowledge is how much the music labels and the music execs actually contribute to their careers. And that's why Joe said, Drake has no idea what to do next. I gotta give a special shout out to Joe. Joe was in the music industry and was making pennies, nickels, and dimes from that shit, if even that. They jerked him, and he was keen enough to figure out the bullshit behind it, enough to figure out I can make more money speaking on this shit than being involved with this shit. Now this nigga Joe has a multi-million-dollar business on music, pertaining to music, but he doesn't fucking rap. And I told y'all a while back, he retired for the better. I'm retiring from music because if I don't retire now, y'all might try to include my podcast as a part of my music contract. So Joe got smart. He started the JBN in 2017. And this is when he decided to say, I'm retired from rapping in 2017. He was a part of Slaughterhouse when he initially started with the JBP. And then what happened with that? He started seeing all the inner workings behind the scenes. Yeah, we're sliding the Slaughterhouse and Eminem, woohoo, one of the best rappers in the game. But he has 4 phenomenal rappers in me, Royce, Zoel, and Crooked. But he's giving us Eminem beats. None of our styles rap to Eminem beats. But he's giving us Eminem beats because he runs the ship. So why the fuck am I going to continue to put money in somebody else's pockets when I want their backing? That's why I came in here initially, was for their backing. And then he's not even producing or getting on any other tracks with us. We're anticipating the push from you, but the only push you're giving us is the fact that we're signed to you. And then you have the autonomy to give us whatever beat you feel. And since you produce beats, you're just giving us all your beats. We don't want none of these fucking Slim Shady beats. All this ties in together. Drake was bragging to everyone about $400 million this, $400 million that. And shout out to Joe for letting shit ruminate in his head. I haven't forgotten about this tweet, so I know damn hell well Joe ain't forget about this tweet where Drake was pointing out that he had a modest house in New Jersey. Look, nigga, I own my modest house in New Jersey. And if I want to up and move, which I have been alluding to in other episodes, I could just up and move my whole network with me. My whole network. Have you ever noticed in the Prize Picks deal that Joe always finds a way to put some derogatory terms in the fucking ad? He's trying to show you niggas. The money that I'm making from this is way different than the money that you make from your music execs. Because when the music exec tells you that you have to do something, you have to do it. But when it comes to what I do with Prize Picks, I haven't had to change my show up. I haven't had to integrate any of the ads in my show outside of the one ad that I give them. I haven't had to put the banner all over my show. I don't have any Prize Picks ads in the studio. But since you got the embassy in Canada, $100 million home, you have to continue making music for the foreseeable future, if not seemingly for the rest of your life. When that Honestly Nevermind album came out, I was perplexed. I was like, what is this? Why is he trying this? Is this a Beyonce take? But it was just you trying to fulfill your contract. I don't know anything about the music exec or the music label or music industry, but I'm very curious to know how EPs work towards fulfilling the contract, because Drake has been putting out every year, sometimes multiple times a year. Do you think he wants to release music that much? What else came with the 400 million? What else came with it? And now that he's waking up, like Ish is saying, what happens when the head of the ship knows you're waking up? Nigga, I'm gonna use all my cards. And all the cards that you think you have have been my best friends for 20, 25 years. So that's what Joe is saying when you can't go against the machine. 50 said, fuck Jimmy Iovine. You want to know who's still in the music industry? Jimmy Iovine. And 50 said that, what, in 2007, 2008? 50 had 3 straight platinum selling albums within the first week. But then, out of nowhere, his 4th album comes out and it's a flop. He can't sell over 500,000 albums. Throughout the entirety or the duration of the album, he can't sell over 500,000 albums. And these niggas think that they just achieved all this success to the top on their own. When they say they can build you up just to bring you down, and you got to be careful of those who feed you are also the same people that can starve you, like it said, there's a reason behind all of this. Because you don't realize who has whose hands in whose pockets. When it comes to, because Joe, this is what started his podcast shit, when it came to the 1,500 streams equals an album sale. I don't know how they came up with that logic. But how do you know that you've recouped any part of any contract you signed? Are they showing you all the slips from the merchandise you sell? Are they showing you all the slips from the albums you sell? And how does that work? How is that accumulative? Do they go to every store and show you the slips from every store of every album sold? Do they go to Spotify and show you all the streams you got, the 1,500 streams you got? Do they go to Apple and show you that you sold 100K albums this week? How do you receive this information? Are y'all going on Billboard? Are y'all going based off of Billboard? When they say y'all sold 30,000 a week, 40,000 a week, do y'all have the access to see that that is actual and factual? Y'all don't think this is a game that the music execs are playing nowadays? How they allow certain artists to say that they sold 300,000 a week, 500,000 a week, but then other artists that we feel are major are only selling 20,000 a week, 30,000 a week, and they're receiving pushes. You don't think that the music execs and the music labels have it set up to where they can show proof? Look, you only sold 30,000. You only sold 40,000. And we put all this influx of money into you. This music industry is shady. And Drake's just now waking up to it because, like Ish said, they have been pacifying him for 15, 20 years at this point. You've been number one. You've been number one. You've been number one. And the person that made a pivot that I'm super glad made the pivot that was going down this same boat is Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith made his YouTube channel, aka his podcast, and thankfully and hopefully, because he always says it's his, independently owned, he didn't go under the guise of an ESPN umbrella. So he's able to show his value. I'm sure it's amassed over 1 million, possibly 2 million subscribers at this point. He's proven his value on his own. So whenever he goes to renegotiate with ESPN, because you know he loves making other people money too, he's trying to stay at ESPN, but his next renegotiation, he can go in there asking for 25, 30, 35 million and receive it. And if not, he can walk smooth the fuck away. I don't think Drake is in the position to where he can walk smooth the fuck away, even though he's been number one for 15, close to 20 years at this point. I remember when he came out in 2009. I remember hearing what it might have been a So Far Gone, but when I remember hearing one of his songs on his mixtape, like, dog, who is this? This nigga's nice. I remember hearing the rumors about him getting ready to sign with Wayne. So from 2009, it's 2024 now, and you've been at the top ever since. You haven't seen all the people that have gotten out of the industry and seen how they've ascended after they got out the industry. I bet you when you was doing those features with Rick Ross, you didn't anticipate Rick Ross being who he is today. I bet when you did your Light Up feature with Jay-Z back in 2010 or 11, you didn't think he would ascend to where he is today. Here it is, you are 15 years later, still in the industry, still putting out hits, still putting out slaps. You got more hits than the Beatles. So how come the Beatles have billion-dollar estates and you're still signing a $400 million contract? And all this that I just said ties to Flip. Why is it that you have the same value that a Joe has, a la Drake and a Rick Ross, but Joe is Rick Ross and you're still in the position that you're at? You're just at the highest position of employee possible. even though you should be a manager or a boss or an entrepreneur, and you have it set up in place to do these things. And I like how you conducted yourself this episode. Hopefully you listen to this episode back and realize that a lot of this shit is applicable to you. But I hope y'all enjoyed y'all Thanksgiving, man. This was a fantastic episode. I didn't give it its due diligence or due props. Trying to get videos out, I guess, but I need to sit down and listen to the content again. I'm glad I ran this one back. Check it out. I believe it's on the $10 tier and up. I believe if you don't have Patreon, you can spend the $10. Or some people in the comments said that you can find it on Reddit. You can bootleg it. I'm not opposed to that either. But this is one of those episodes you want to check out. It's got one of the legendary Joe rants. So, yeah. Hope y'all had a happy Thanksgiving once again. Y'all stay tuned, man. Should be back tomorrow. Peace.